minutes, we are up to public comment. At this time, we welcome members of the community to address the board. When you are called, please come up to the microphone and state your name and your address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please direct all comments to the board. For established procedures, we will not respond to questions or interact with speakers during public comment. Everyone who indicates they would like follow-up from the district will receive it from the appropriate administrator. Okay, first up we have Vincent Monahan.
Vincent Monahan, you'll find me at 6860 Cascade Road. I recommend all minors and easily triggered adults leave. This is my only trigger warning. I've asked Board President Fossum in multiple speeches as well not to refer to me by my professional title. Despite her continued disregard for my preferences, my speech reflects only my views and no affiliation that my professional title might suggest. This that I've passed out is your second medical journal article to understand the scope of the problem perpetuated in the FHPS school libraries. It is from the Journal of Communication Research by Elizabeth Paris. It is the use of erotica and acceptance of rape myths. Scientific data that has been present since 1994. This study considered 2 models with respect to the exposure of erotica defined as sexually explicit materials. The liberal theory stated that erotica had few negative effects. The feminist social responsibility theory contended that the use of erotica contributes to the acceptance of rape myths, defined as prejudiced and factually incorrect beliefs about rape, rape victims, and rapists, reflecting a climate hostile to the rape victims. The study assessed links not only between rape myth acceptance and the volume of exposure, but the reasons for exposure to erotica as well. And as it turned out, the liberals were wrong on this and the feminists were spot on. Increase in exposure to erotica was related to increase in rape myth acceptance. Most reasons for erotica use were also associated with an increase in rape myth acceptance. For example, the use of erotica for sexual enhancement defined as information gathering or mood enhancement, as well as diversion defined as escape, entertainment, or boredom, were indirectly related to rape myth acceptance through their link to increased exposure to the erotica. It is thought that this is due because much of erotica depicts sexist views of women that dehumanize them and see them as objects. Sexual enhancement and diversion are common causes of erotica use in teens. Sexually explicit books are in the school libraries. Over the last 4 years, I have read many of them to you with graphic depictions of rape. Why is FHPS passively complicit in fueling the rape myth acceptance by leaving these explicit materials on their shelves? Why promote misogyny through exposure to erotica? Yearly, you take steps taken to secure the internet access and usage while on school property. If you do that, why would you leave sexually explicit materials in your school libraries? The media specialist, principals, and the assistant superintendent of instruction have board book sanctioned means of moving these books off campus to a public library or a used bookstore, and you can help by encouraging them to do so. Good day.
Thank you, Dr. Monahan. Next up, Doug Lee.
Doug Lee, resident of Cascade, we have forced those 30 years for alumni from Forreston Central. I would like one follow-up comment. Is Superintendent Kirby mentioned the increase, and I wonder if the increase in the student population has anything to do with the 4-year-olds that we've now added to our school. We're in the business of education. I listened to a presentation, and I have also 11 words that I think are pretty strong words. It should be a foundation to education. Mathematics, science, reading, writing, U.S. history, world history, spelling, grammar, music, chemistry, and geography. I remember going to a Board of Education meeting and 2 seniors came up and said, we don't need to know about history, it's how we feel about each other. That's what we're graduating. So we put the words of welcome and all the touchy feelings and we take the focus of education, we get what we get. I've been doing this now for 6 years. As you know, I'm pretty persistent in this. I've been very active, involved in the governance of our education because I put education first. So recently I made a decision that because nobody here listens to me, I'm going to take my fight to Lansing in the House District 80 and bring education back to Michigan schools, not just Forest Hills, but a broader scope. That would take more of my time and have much more effectiveness than sitting here talking to you guys all the time about what's wrong with the school. if you see what I see from the kids that you graduate in the real life world, and CJ, this is not the college, the school you graduated from. It's different. When you talk to an 11th grader or 12th grader, they don't even know base 10 systems. History is history. U.S. history is foreign to them. We're no longer in the business of education. And if you don't believe it, you have to talk to enough people.
Thank you. Next is David Martin.
David Martin, I live on Snow Avenue. Also, thanks to veterans who protect my freedom to speak here tonight. Anyone in the audience, anywhere. My address is to the board. I want the audience to also listen carefully, and because it regards the Supreme Court's decision in June 2025 in a case titled Mahmoud v. Taylor. I would expect the board to be extremely familiar with this case, but the audience may not be. It is one of the most consequential rulings in the last decade, and it is entirely surrounded around public education. Briefly, a Virginia school district used certain textbooks in classrooms without allowing parents to opt their children out of these classes. As is typical nowadays, the books promoted LGBTQ lifestyles, which oppose Islamic teachings. Thus, an Islamic family named Mahmoud sued the school district. Anyone who wants to investigate it, it is spelled M-A-H-M-O-U-D. The school district argued that mandating these books was necessary to promote inclusivity of thought and behavior. The school board simply stated that parents could simply send their students to private school in order to opt out of such teachings. Wow. Notably, one board member called the Islamic family white supremacists. Shows you just how far an elitist will go to protect their power. However, in ruling for the parents, the Supreme Court affirmed that the family's religious rights overrides the rights of the schools. The court wrote, quote, "We reject the chilling version of the power of the state to strip away the critical right of parents to guide the religious development of their children." That end of quote. Schools now must inform and allow parents to pull students from classrooms to avoid content that conflicts with their religious beliefs. So, to you parents out there, it is now your firm right to investigate curriculum and pull students out of lessons that conflict with their religious beliefs. This pertains to every single lesson, every single class, every single day of the year. It is also your responsibility to monitor the Michigan Board of Education, which just 2 months after the Supreme Court decision is now proposing to circumvent current state law to eliminate opt-out provisions for sex education classes. Now, ask yourself, why would a state board propose a standard that is in direct conflict with established state law and the U.S. Supreme Court? Well, remember how tightly elites cling to power? There's your answer. And do you think they will worry whether they trample on your rights if they will trample on the U.S. Supreme Court?
Mr. Martin.
Stay vigilant.
All right, up next, Scott Van Solken.
Hello, Scott Van Solken, I live in Cascade. I just want to say I'm a little disappointed with some of the district's recent spending decisions. I mean, I took the time to watch the Finance Committee meeting that Vincent recorded. Thank you, Vincent. Because for some reason the district still chooses not to record those meetings. That's unfortunate since you clearly have the equipment that's not even being manned. But what really stood out to me was how much time was spent discussing the $50,510 automated floor scrubber. Far more than was spent talking about the $16 million FHN renovation or the $48 million new aquatic center. Even during this meeting, those multi-million-dollar projects were just mostly glossed over. Now, to be fair, the scrubber itself seems like a good investment. Using an AI-powered machine to handle that work makes sense. It saves employee time and eliminates the need for someone to ride the current one for an entire 8-hour shift. My concern isn't the purchase, it's how much attention it received compared to the much larger projects. Granted, there was much larger projects, probably had a whole bunch of other meetings beforehand, but still. I also wanted to ask about the current aquatic center. From what I understand, it's gonna be filled in, at least the pool portion. And then next year, a plan will be developed for what to do with that space. And how long will that take? This reminds me of the 2015 task force report on the old administration building. Back then, the options were to sell the property to offset the cost of this new building, or to tear it down and turn it into sports fields. Since all the high schools already have plenty of fields, I think selling it as is with the building intact still makes the most sense. As far as I know, it's still used for district printing and sometimes police training. Obviously, I see a lot of police vehicles there on occasion, since it's mostly empty, more likely training. And while we're on that topic, I'd also like to ask about the 60 acres on Buttrick that were purchased around 30 years ago. It doesn't seem needed right now, and hopefully it's not costing the district anything, since that's FHPS doesn't pay property taxes. I do actually have an idea for that property, though I'll admit it probably wouldn't be too popular with the neighbors, but it might make sense for the district in the long run, especially to get possibly more people into the district. So I just hope these older properties don't get forgotten while attention is focused on the new projects and renovations. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michelle Lee?
Pass.
Okay. Then at this time, public comments are closed. The board thanks you for your input, and the appropriate district representative will follow up with those who requested it. Is there any other business before the board this evening? All right, hearing none, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.